Is never random. It follows a formula, one that has been passed down in secrecy for centuries. The elite don't rule by accident, luck, or even brute force. They rule because they understand something you don't. Hidden within their private circles lies a knowledge so powerful that if fully understood, it could collapse their entire control structure overnight. This is not political. This is not economic. This is energetic. The rulers of this world are not just politicians or businessmen. They are magicians. And their greatest trick, convincing you that magic doesn't exist while using it against you every single day. They have mastered the laws of reality creation, but they do not teach them. Instead, they weaponize them. They use the law of mentalism to shape perception, turning lies into truth and illusions into unshakable beliefs. They use the law of vibration to manipulate emotions on a global scale, ensuring that fear, division, and scarcity become the dominant frequencies of society. And they use the law of correspondence, the mirror principle, to trap people in a loop where their external world keeps reflecting the same programmed limitations. They don't just control institutions, they control the very structure of thought itself. And the deeper secret, they don't act alone. This knowledge didn't come from trial and error. It came from something much older. Ancient Egyptian priesthoods, Babylonian sorcerers, Hermetic philosophers, they all knew how energy responds to focused intention. But here's where it gets disturbing. This power is neutral. It can be used to liberate or enslave. And for centuries, it has been used against you. The symbols, the rituals, the hidden frequencies in media and culture, they are all part of the same occult blueprint. Because the moment you wake up to the real game being played, the moment you understand that you have the same access to these universal laws, their entire illusion falls apart. But before that happens, you need to see the hidden language they've been using all along. A language that bypasses the mind and speaks directly to your subconscious without you even realizing it.
There's really just three pillars that structure all of reality, and they're not just Kabbalistic symbolism either. They appear throughout the Old Testament as actual physical pillars that Jacob erected, and as the two pillars in Solomon's temple, and they represent the fundamental forces that hold creation in balance. Now this is all about the three pillars, and understanding them is understanding how the universe operates. So let's start with the basic structure. The tree of life is arranged in three vertical columns. The right pillar is called the pillar of mercy, the left is called the pillar of severity, and finally the middle pillar is known as the pillar of balance, equilibrium, or mildness. Now, first let's talk about the right pillar. The right pillar is known for mercy, expansion, giving, the masculine force, and the active principle. The Sephiroth on the right pillar are Chokmah, which means wisdom, Chesed, meaning mercy, and Netzach, which is victory. This is the energy of growth, abundance, and unrestrained force flowing outward. But the left pillar is known for severity, restriction, limitation, the feminine force, and the passive principle. The Sephiroth here are Bina, meaning understanding, Gabora, severity, and Hod for splendor. This is the energy of boundaries, discipline, and form-giving structure to chaos. Now finally we have the middle pillar. This is balance between the two extremes. You have Keter, which is the crown at the top, Tiferet, which is beauty at the heart, Yesod, which is the foundation below, and Malkuth, the kingdom at the base. This is where the opposing opposite forces reconcile into harmony together. Now I'm sure you're thinking there could have been any number of pillars, so why three? Well, in short, creation requires polarity. You can't have expansion without contraction. You can't have giving without receiving. You can't have form without force, so the right and left pillars are really like the cosmic inhale and exhale. But polarity alone creates conflict. Pure mercy with no severity just becomes chaos, unlimited expansion with no boundaries, and pure severity with no mercy becomes tyranny, all restriction and no freedom. What you need is the middle pillar to balance and synthesize the two. Now the Kabbalistic teaching is that reality is maintained by the tension between these forces. All creation emerges from this dynamic balance alone. So let's get into some real biblical pillars. Just so you know, this isn't just some abstract theory. The Bible is filled with literal pillars representing the same structure. Jacob erects pillars repeatedly throughout Genesis. After his vision of the ladder to heaven, he takes the stone he used as a pillow, sets it upright as a pillar, pours oil on it, and names it Bethel, house of God. He's creating a physical representation of the Axis Mundi, the world pillar connecting heaven and earth. That's the middle pillar, the point of balance where divine and earthly meet. Even Solomon's temple has two massive bronze pillars at the entrance, Yakin on the right and Boaz on the left. Yakin means he establishes, the active establishing principle. The pillar of mercy Boaz means in him is strength, the stabilizing and strengthening principle, or the pillar of severity. Now, every initiate entering the temple passed between these two pillars, symbolically walking the middle pillar, which balance the opposite forces to reach the Holy of Holies within. The temple itself is a three-dimensional tree of life, and the pillars mark the structure. Kabbalists say that these weren't just architectural features either, they were encoded teachings, and anyone who understood the mystery of the pillars understood the structure of reality. So now let's talk about these forces in action and what they really mean. The right pillar gives without limit. If unopposed, it would expand forever, dissolving all form into undifferentiated light. This is Hesed, boundless love, infinite mercy, but also the danger of losing all definition, while the left pillar restricts and defines. If unopposed, it would contract forever, crushing everything into absolute density. This is Gabora, necessary discipline, protective boundaries, but also the danger of rigidity. Now the middle pillar, it mediates. It allows expansion but within form. It permits structure but prevents calcification. Tiferet, the heart of the middle pillar, is called beauty because beauty is the perfect balance of force and form. So what does it mean to really live the pillars? Well, in life you experience these forces constantly. The right pillar is when you're generous, creative, expansive, and optimistic, while the left pillar is when you're disciplined, critical, cautious, and analytical. The middle pillar, though, is when you integrate both. Generous but discerning, creative but structured. Most people spend their time swinging between extremes, all mercy and then all severity, all expansion and then all contraction. The spiritual work is learning to walk the middle pillar, holding both forces simultaneously without collapsing into either extreme. Now, even mystery schools structure their initiations around this. The Golden Dawn rituals deliberately invoke forces from the right pillar, then the left pillar, and then stabilize in the middle. You're being trained to hold polarity. The middle pillar exercise, which is a core Golden Dawn practice, moves energy straight up the central column, from Malkuth to Yesod to Tiferet to Da'at to Keter. You're literally embodying the axis of balance, becoming the pillar yourself. But this is the secret. The part that most people miss is that the middle pillar isn't compromise. It's not a little bit of both. Rather, it's the transcendent third force that emerges when opposites are held in perfect tension. Thesis and antithesis don't average into synthesis, they transform into something entirely new. That's the middle pillar. It's not mercy plus severity divided by 2, it's the force that emerges when you refuse to collapse into either extreme. So yeah, the three pillars aren't just a diagram, they're actually the operating system of reality encoded in Solomon's temple, reflected in Jacob's stone pillars, and alive in you right now, as the forces pulling you toward expansion or contraction with a path of balance.
Time is not real, Master. So everything is your perception. You are the creator of your experience. So there is no time. Truly, there isn't. This really boggles everybody's minds. What we will say to people is you've been programmed to buy into the illusion of time. And they used to keep things that projected this illusion to you, let's say, set in a particular rhythm, because everything is a rhythm of frequency, and those rhythms are being disrupted and manipulated, and your timelines are being crossed. They're being folded into each other. That's really what you're feeling. You're feeling the byproduct of the inconsistency of how much everything is bumping into each other and folding into each other, and that's feeling like everything is faster, Time is a complete illusion. The way you measure time is ridiculous. Nothing works in flow according to your Gregorian calendars and the way that you run your cyclical cycles seasonally, plus with the rotation of the moon cycle, the sun cycle, the planetary cycles. Nothing is consistent in the catastrophe that you have created to disrupt the natural flow of the environmental consistencies and existences here on this Earth ship. So time never feels the same to anybody. Now the question is this: are they going to bring back the application? We think it's kind of funny that there is a global application for an illusionary process. But the question is, are they going to initiate more of a systematic flow of the illusionary concept of time back to humanity? That would be bringing back our calendar, the Julian calendar, and everything would run more seamlessly on the seasonal systems. And time would actually measure itself, Master, in a far less pressurized application. And your body won't feel the pressure of the time program when it's more in the flow with the biorhythms of your body. And we know that this is a long conversation and a long explanation. Did they rush time? In a sense, yes, because they disrupted the patterns of the energy in relationship to your perception of time. But we hope and we feel that this will come more into a balance, especially, again, if they initiate some of those changes, and you will be well. What we can tell you is this: make sure that you are grounding yourself, Master, on a regular basis. This will help calm your nervous system down, and you'll be far less reactive to the illusion of time, and you won't feel whether it's rushed or slowed.
Okay guys, I am back. And for those of you who do not know what this is, it's actually a cornerstone ring. And this symbol is directly tied to the Royal Ark Freemasons. And you can see it right here. And surprisingly, becoming a Master Mason is only the first step. And if we break down the letters within the ring, it states Hiram, the widow's son, sent to King Solomon. And what's really interesting is this branch uses its own calendar as well. Anno Inventonis in the year of discovery. And to calculate this, they add 530 years to the current year. 2025 becomes 2555 AI. Now I know AI started long after the formation of the Royal Ark Masons. I just find it odd that we're in the age of AI.
You guys hear about ordering?
Age of discovery.
Up with the lovely company Palantir. Come on! The Department of Defense, they're using the Aura Rings for soldiers to collect biometric data. They have to use Palantir's security systems to keep that data secure. But you know there's going to be weird loopholes in access.
For sure. Probably exactly what RFK was talking about. The wearables. He says, I want everyone wearing a wearable by 2029. You know, if the government issued rings for people, it's like, listen, this is going to be great. You can link it to your healthcare. It's going to be awesome.
They passed this thing in August 2025. Aura revealed, partnering with the Department of Defense, leveraging Palantir's FedStart platform to enhance data security for military use. And they're like, no, it's not going to collect the data of everyone that has an Aura ring. And it's like,
guys, trust us.
come on.
Guys,
We would never do anything like that.
Honestly, that idea didn't even cross my mind.
We do read your texts and emails, but we would never collect your biometric data.
What are you talking about?
You guys sound crazy.
When the snake came and told him that he wasn't ready, he kept going. He was open so much spiritually that an entity called the Symbiont came in and attached to him. So I went to his house, and I could just tell, because I know exactly what that look looks like. Pure turmoil, pure agony. It took me, I want to say, about 3.5 hours pushing energy, pulling the Symbiont off of him, utilizing Kundalini Reiki. I'm pulling different cords, I'm unlatching the Symbiont, one leg or one claw to the next. I could feel and see like the ancestors looking at the situation. You have to be very mindful and very careful when you do that, especially with the, like I said, the fire breaths, the levitation, because you start to get on others' radar in other dimensions, and you might have visitors.
The people involved in the drug companies and the insurance companies and the food industry all work together, and many of them own stock in each other's companies, and many of them are on the boards of each other's companies. It's a criminal enterprise, and here's how it works. There are many facets, but I'm going to give you one. They'll have this meeting, and I know because I was in the meetings 30 years ago. And the food industry says we are putting some ingredients in the food, some additives. And our chemists and scientists know that this one additive in a minute amount doesn't cause any problem. And this other additive in a minute amount really doesn't have any long-term negative effects. And this third additive in a minute amount really doesn't have any negative effects on a person if it's in food and they consume it. But our chemists have discovered that when you add all three at the same time, a new compound is formed. And now the person's going to have twitching in their legs. It's going to cause this shaking in their legs. And it sometimes can take 3 to 5 to 7 years before it starts developing, because it affects the nerves and so forth. So this is how the conversation goes. So the food companies will say, so what we're going to do is we're going to start putting it in the food, knowing that 7 or 8 or 9 years from now, there's going to be hundreds of thousands or millions of people with this leg shimmering, shaking issue that are going to want a treatment. We should call it something. I know, we'll call it restless leg syndrome. So when restless leg syndrome comes out 7 or 8 years from now, you guys, the drug companies, should have a drug approved and ready to go. And you'll make a zillion dollars. Okay, so and then the drug companies say, yeah, we're going to do this. So they start working on the drug knowing that there's going to be this epidemic down the road. That's why magically when there's this epidemic of psoriasis that's everywhere, or diabetes, or hypertension, or restless leg syndrome, or irritable bowel syndrome, or all these new diseases that didn't exist 50 years ago, but everyone's got it. There's words I can't even pronounce. Where if you're taking a drug and you're having, twitching, take this other drug. When I was a kid, nobody walked around and did this. But now it's like all over television in America, and it's like a common occurrence. Are you kidding me? And it's caused by a drug or what's in the food, and you know what their solution is? Take another drug. Then the insurance companies get involved and say, how can we make money on this? So they have to get the government, which is your taxpayer money, and they work out a deal through the lobbyists to make sure that this drug is paid for by insurance and effectively paid for by the government. Perfect. Because remember, the government pays for Medicare and Medicaid in America, and other countries it's very similar. So they work together on this, and this happens all the time. This is how they make their money.
The water you drink has probably been inside of someone or something else. Constipation can make you vomit poop. A teratoma is a rare type of tumor that can grow hair, teeth, bones, intestines, and more. There is a bloody skeleton living inside of you. Bone dust smells like Cool Ranch Doritos. This is what the MRI of a baby looks like. Holy shit. There's a condition known as fatal insomnia, where one day you can't go to sleep, and eventually you die because of this lack of sleep. You know that moment when you're about to fall asleep and suddenly you flinch because you feel like you're falling? This is actually known as a hypnic jerk, and it alerts your body that you're dying, or at least thinks that you're dying. If you decapitate someone, their head will remain conscious for 15 to 20 seconds, which is long enough for them to realize what you did to them. Humans are bioluminescent, meaning that we glow in the dark, but our eyes are just
wondering why
too
David
busy.
hasn't been arrested. Well, there are two main reasons. But first things first, for those of you that don't know, David has a problem. The body of Celeste Rivas Hernandez, remember her full name, that's important, was found in the trunk of his car. Now, in cases like this, people want answers, which is where the police have a problem as well. They can't mess this one up. Which brings us to the first reason David hasn't been arrested. The police need to do an absolutely thorough investigation. They need to know everything. Now, I understand that a lot of evidence has been found connecting David to Celeste Rivas Hernandez. But the thing is, it's not about how much evidence you have. It's about whether you can prove it to a jury. Now, if this goes to trial, with the lawyer that David's probably going to get, if police walk in and say, yo, we found this Discord chat with David, and a lawyer's just going to be like, prove it. Police will be like, David's lawyer would be like, exit? Is that what you're trying to say? Exit? Because we leaving. So again, reason number one, David hasn't been arrested. Police need proof to see to what degree did David commit this crime. It could be 0. He could have not committed it. It could be he had a part of it. It could be he did the whole thing. Now, reason number two kind of ties into reason number one. If you arrest somebody, they have the right to a speedy trial, meaning you put a time limit on yourself once you arrest someone. You better gather up all your evidence because someone's innocent until proven guilty. And you don't want a technically innocent human being sitting in a prison cell while police figure it out. Basically, arresting someone is like saying to your teacher, my project is ready. Your teacher's gonna look at you and say, all right, well, you better present it pretty soon. So police seemingly want to take their time researching all of the information so they have all of their ducks in a row. That's a good phrase. We need to use it more before an arrest is made because things can get wicked. For example, why I kept telling you, remember, Celeste Rivas Hernandez's full name is because there's another Celeste, both seemingly associated with David. There's Rivas Hernandez, the one that was tragically, and then there's Herrera. She popped up in many live streams with David. People speculated they had a relationship. Now, why I bring this up is because people believe that David's relationship with Herrera was to cover up the fact that he was dating Rivas, whose age is that. So now the court game takes another step, because if police believe that David did it, they need to make sure that this new Celeste is a non-factor in the court of law. If David's lawyers say, no, this is the Celeste that David was in a relationship with, police need to make sure they're on top of that. Maybe going to this Celeste and saying, hey, was your relationship with David real? Was it fake? If she says fake to cover up his relationship with Rivas Hernandez, boom, they got you. You know what I'm saying? Now, side note, some people believe because this new Celeste has appeared, David is completely innocent, to which I say, David could know one Celeste, two Celeste, four Celeste. Celeste Rivas Hernandez was found in his trunk. Keep your eye on the ball. Ain't nobody innocent until you get the evidence. Lock in. But again, all this to say is a high-profile case, and it seems that police are trying to take the evidence.
If the día de ayer, en Teotihuacán, México, decenas de visitantes captaron un fenómeno extraño detrás de la pirámide del Sol durante una tarde nublada y lluviosa. Según los testigos, el Sol se alineó justo detrás del monumento y de pronto comenzó a emitir una serie de pulsaciones de luz que iluminaron las nubes durante varios segundos. En los videos compartidos por turistas se puede observar claramente cómo el resplandor aparece detrás de la pirámide, aumenta de intensidad y luego desaparece sin dejar rastro. El fenómeno ya se ha vuelto viral en redes sociales, generando todo tipo de teorías, desde un simple efecto óptico causado por la tormenta hasta interpretaciones más misteriosas. Hasta el momento, las autoridades del Instituto Nacional de Antropología e Historia no han emitido un comunicado oficial sobre lo ocurrido. Lo cierto es que las imágenes, como puede ver en pantalla, han dejado a más de uno con la duda. ¿Usted qué piensa? Comente en nuestras redes sociales sobre este extraño fenómeno vivido ayer 4 de octubre, sin duda algo para analizar y estudiar
DMT is also
cuidadosamente.
unique in its abundance in the living world as truly ubiquitous. It's found in plants and animals. In humans, it's produced by the liver and lungs to play an important yet unknown role in the pineal gland. This alone separates it from other hallucinogens. Look at each psychedelic and its active chemical compound. Mushrooms produces THC and so on. To get the effective compound, you've got to go to the particular plant that hosts it. This is, again, not the case with DMT, which can be unlocked with breathing techniques or Kriya Yoga practices. This is what makes it endogenous rather than just entheogenic like its neighbors. It is deliberately kind to novice users and tends to be more stern with
Encuentran
veterans.
restos humanos en una fábrica donde se dedican a distribuir carnes de toda clase. Pero estamos hablando de carnes de animales. Y resulta que en esta fábrica en Wisconsin encontraron mucha carne, pero de personas. Y han hecho varios ADN y son personas desaparecidas. Por eso está existiendo tanto tráfico humano y las personas todavía no lo creen. Y es que dicen que el FBI a días estaba investigando a una fábrica ubicada en Wisconsin, Estados Unidos, porque sospechaban a alguien que está trabajando ahí, que los obligan a trabajar sin que ellos quieran, porque los tienen amenazados. Y una de las personas habló y pidió protección, y así es como estas personas fueron a dar con esta fábrica donde están vendiendo carne humana.
The Titanic was a lot more horrifying than you thought, and was far worse than what you learned. But why? First off, you would be sleeping when it hit the iceberg, waking up to a loud bang and shake in the middle of the night, and at first you wouldn't even realize what happened, most people going back to sleep thinking nothing of it. When only 20 minutes later you would start to hear commotion in the halls, being told to go to the top deck immediately, still in your night clothes, thinking it was some kind of drill. At this point, the crew already knew the ship was going down, but you wouldn't even know it yet, only feeling a very slight tilt in the ship. On the top deck, they would try to keep you distracted by playing music while slowly releasing safety boats to prevent panic, where only women and children could escape first. But as time moved on, the tilting grew much worse, where people on the bottom deck would start to see water flowing through the halls and rooms, standing in a large crowd for over an hour waiting to hopefully get a lifeboat. But as the clock neared around 2 a.m., a slow realization would take place that there's not enough safety boats for everyone. At this point, the entire ship would go into a full panic, needing to fight against the crowd to try to get onto the last few boats. Within the panic, the ship would tilt even more, causing the power to go out, which would be pitch black since there was no moonlight on that day. At around 2:18, the tilt would become so extreme it would eventually cause the ship to snap in half. Many people flying off or being hit by debris, and if you somehow stayed on the ship, it was now rapidly sinking, where your only choice was to either dive into the pitch black 28 degrees water trying to find a lifeboat, or stay on the ship slowly being lowered into the water, freezing to death.